So it's been a while, and that's mainly for reasons that I really don't want to go into. And right now, I'm back again playing World of Warcraft on my mage. Just rep grinding, and you'll see me hit my hotkeys every now and again to. You see over here the guy with the sparkles. I've been killing him. Good rep grind. But other than what I've been doing lately, handling other things, I was made aware of something very important to me. You see, I was made aware of the book To Train Up a Child. And some of you are aware of this book. Some of you are aware that it is the cause of several deaths of children. That it teaches a particularly draconian method of bringing up a child. That its methods of bringing up a child are abusive. Now, the actual defense that the authors are coming up with is basically that it's the fault of the parents who have been using this book. And the issue I find with that is that, granted, some parents can become overzealous in their attempts to discipline their child. But would they have become such and used such methods had this book not been in their hands to begin with? The simple fact of the matter is that the book is the reason why they beat their children to death. There's no getting around that. Yes, the parents might have been overzealous in doing so. I'll give them that part of the defense. It certainly absolves the Pearls, Michael and Debbie Pearl, who wrote the book. It certainly absolves them of murder. But that is murder in the legal sense of the American criminal justice system. They are, however, very much so guilty of manslaughter. You see, legally speaking, manslaughter is the killing of a human being in a way that is less culpable than murder. Vehicular homicide is one that you see fairly often, relatively speaking, fairly often, wherein sometimes you lose control of your vehicle and kill someone. Now, maybe you were hydroplaning, and that's not really your fault. Granted, you should know how to drive better. You should have prepared for these conditions. But it's not wholly and totally your fault. You are not truly culpable for something like that. By the same token, self-defense murders, if they're even convicted at all, it's usually for manslaughter when it's self-defense, because you did not, because the way manslaughter has really been done, it's meant to be that it's involuntary. You do not go in to kill someone with malice aforethought. Is the real difference between murder and manslaughter. The Pearls did not mean to intend for these children to die, and yet they did. They are not guilty of murder. Manslaughter is what they're guilty of. Because, as I said, it was an involuntary. And again, the parents are probably a fair amount at fault here. But the simple fact of the matter is that, as I said, it's a very draconian method. They advocate the beating of children. Now, I realize beating has a negative connotation to it. In reality, they advise switching and other things in order to train up a child. And the simple fact of the matter is that if you look into a lot of the readings from the Bible, and I'll start by saying this one, the truth of the matter is when it comes to discipline, there is, and I'm no I don't know the name and verses of any of this sort of thing. This is not really my forte when it comes to actually quoting the Bible. But there's a verse in there, and I'm not saying it verbatim. I'm pretty sure I don't remember the entire thing. I believe it's spare the rod and spoil the child is the one that people are often quoting. And I remember back in the days when I would actually attend church, before I went to live with my mother. On the Sundays, there was a particular time for the adult group. And I think we were studying Ecclesiastes. I'm not sure. That was back when I was on drugs, and not illegal drugs. That's a story for another time. I'm already thinking about doing that. That was back when I was on the drugs, and they were discussing it. And on a regular basis, Jesus would refer to his followers as a flock of sheep, and that he was the shepherd guiding them. And this allegory, or not allegory, this comparison, this simile slash metaphor, depending on where it is in the Bible, is very prevalent, and the Christians have taken it on to be the entirety. This is what it is. Now, back in those days, the rod was another name for the shepherd's crook, which, if any of you know it, it's the long staff that has the curve at the end. And the purpose of the shepherd's crook was to bring back sheep who had strayed too far, gently guide them back, and to lay out in front of them and guide their path. The shepherd's crook slash rod was never meant as a tool for beating your children. If we are to take the comparisons that Jesus Christ made, and the comparisons that the Christian culture has made and created as an indelible part of the culture, then we should be accepting this as well. That in all reality, the rod is not a tool of punishment. It is a tool of instruction and guidance. Much the same way as a teacher might use a pointing stick in her classroom to illustrate different examples on the board. So already the pearls are at fault, very much so. And in fact, I will bring up something even more, that they have committed a sin by doing such a thing. Now, surely you think, what sin could this possibly be? Well, I will tell you right now that I'm not, as I said, I'm not really a complete Bible scholar. I know a few things about a lot of things. But let me just pull up the Ten Commandments, because I actually think that it's actually in there as one of them. If I can find it. I am the Lord thy God, graven images, no other gods before me, take the name of the Lord in vain, Sabbath day, honor father and mother, kill adultery. Okay, so it's not there, I guess not. Okay, whatever. Point here is they are trying to be gods themselves. You see, any way you look at it, God gave us the power of choice. Just because he knows what's going to happen doesn't mean that we ourselves, we don't know. We are allowed that choice. Now, I would keep in mind that I'm not speaking as a believer or anything. I'm just speaking as someone who understands things. And God gave us this choice. The choice to do what we will and what we want. Just because he knows the outcome doesn't mean he actually makes us do what we do. But what the pearls have advocated is taking away that choice. Completely and utterly removing the gift of God. They are likening themselves unto gods themselves. They are leading parents to becoming gods themselves by taking away the power of choice, invested in the children by God. And by doing so, not only are they trying to take over the place of God, but in this case, you do in fact have the children unwillingly breaking the one of the commandments, that thou shalt have no other gods before me. Because then, through this method, they began to see the parent as a god, and unwillingly break that commandment. Now, of course, I lead this up in the sense that this is a Christian household, and not just some family who decided to let's follow this method. It seems to be good effects and good results. Because most sane people would not even think to pick up this book. Most sane people would read the reviews, and they'd find out that this is a terrible, terrible book. In fact, this book should never have even been allowed to be published. This book is tantamount to giving parents free license for child abuse without punishment, for murder. It's just the same as seeing a book on the shelf that said, "Here's how you can get away with pedophilia. Here's how you can get away with a crime." It gives them a justification to do these sorts of things. And it sickens me. It sickens me that someone would even think to publish it, that someone would think to stock it, that anyone would buy it, that anyone would use it. It sickens me. It sickens me ever so much that this sort of thing exists on this world. So, the result of this is the Pearls, while not at fault for murder, by publishing this book, they are at fault for manslaughter. They have involuntarily killed children because of this book. Because these are the things that they have taught to parents with this book. And every day that it stays on the shelves, more parents are becoming indoctrinated by this shit. Because that's what it is. It's nothing that you want any part of. So do yourself a favor and never pick it up. Do not use it as a model for your children. Do not use it for anything other. If you must use it, start a fire with it. At least then, it can actually do something good. Maybe. There's still arson. That's a crime.